Hey guys, hi, welcome back once again. My name is Vaishali, and today I'd like to talk about the archaeology of our mind. And dare I even say the archaeology of our man, the archaeology of what constitutes us. Now, all these words, all these aspects like mind, man, or ourselves is not different from each other, is not separate from each other, but rather they are the integral and at the same time paradoxical aspects that constitute us. We are a constituent and a constitution of our memories. We are both the integrated and the fragmented aspects of our memories, which operates both on implicit and in explicit ways. Now, explicit memories are the memories that most of us can consciously recall. They're just there at the surface level for a recollection. While on the other hand, our implicit memories are more hidden, are more subconscious, are more dormant in nature. They are more subjective and emotional in nature. And since they are more dormant, since they are more hidden, since they have an emotional backup, they are kind of stored in the body and they get released or they get expressed when there's a trigger around, when something triggers them. So in order to understand that, let's take up a few examples over here. And if you look at the movies, Bhool Bhulaiya 1, in my understanding, kind of comes close to understanding our implicit memories, the dormant, the hidden emotional memories. Now, of course, the movie showcases the condition of DID or dissociative identity disorder, which earlier also used to be called as multiple personality disorder. Now, if we remove that aspect, we'll understand that it's the story of a girl who was left, or rather who felt abandoned by her parents at the age of 3, wherein her parents had left her with her grandmother to kind of pursue their own dreams. They had left this little kid in charge of her grandmother, and while she may have missed her parents, it was her grandmother who kind of replaced her parents for her. She kind of developed a strong emotional attachment towards her grandmother. Now, as the grandmother starts to age and her health deteriorates with time, her parents come to take her back with them. And this again feels uprooting and disruptive for this growing up child. The child who has now gotten attached to the grandmother, the child who probably even considers the grandmother as her own parent. And when she is forcefully taken by her parents, she again feels a sense of abandonment. She feels angry, she feels sad that even this time around, she is being uprooted. She is not being heard. That what she essentially wants to stay with her grandmother is not being addressed, is not being taken care of, is being thrown away, is being rejected, is being abandoned. And with time, as she grows up, as she starts living in a new place with her new parents or supposed new parents to her, and what she has experienced gets pushed down, gets pushed at the back burner. Now, it's important to be aware that it gets pushed down, but it never gets healed. It gets repressed and suppressed with time, but it's not processed. For processing requires us to feel what we've got to deal with. It requires us to grieve the loss that we have experienced. And since that has not happened, whatever has been pushed down comes back to the surface as DID, expressed as DID, once the trigger is out there. Once those pushed down, repressed and suppressed, pushed aside memories get triggered again. Which reminds me of the saying that we are afraid of what has already happened because we have an experiential memory of that happening. Whether we are consciously aware of it or not, our body does keep the score of all of our explicit and our implicit memories. And in my own personal experience, one such memory is with regards to time. And as much as I take pride in being a punctual person, there's also an aspect of it that runs on a defaulted mode at times. It was a time when, as a 3 or a 4-year-old, I was busy playing and I kind of lost track of time. So, quite naturally, my mother got very angry with me, and in her anger, she threw me out of the house. And I was left standing outside of the house in darkness, scared, literally to death. Now, I didn't have a recollection of it till I really dug deep, trying to understand as to why I feel a sense of anxiety when I start to get late, or I even start to feel that anxiety and that anger rising within me when somebody else is equally late. I really had to track that memory because punctuality had become my default mechanism. And since my early association with not turning up on time or with delay had gotten associated with a sense of being thrown out, a sense of abandonment, a sense of being rejected, I also needed to understand that at one point in time, as a default mechanism, as a coping mechanism, punctuality had become one of my strongest traits. To a degree, it still today is one of my strongest traits, till it doesn't trigger anxiety within me. And that memory was stored within the body. And thankfully, once I started listening to my body, thankfully, when my daughter and some very close people were able to point it out to me, essentially the anxiety and the anger and the disappointment that starts to come up with regards to delay in timing, I was able to begin to address it, but not without the initial resistance, not without the initial fight within and outside. For our subconscious and our non-conscious would like to get back to what it has practiced, to what it knows best. But had that been pushed aside, had that been repressed, had that not been addressed, had that not been tapped into, had that not been looked into, the wall clock or the watch running me would have become my defaulted mechanism. It could have also turned into obsessive compulsive disorder. And if not OCD, it could have manifested itself in some other ways. Until we become aware of our emotional reactivities to any kind of a threat that we perceive, to any kind of an emotional trigger, to any kind of an emotional upheaval or a suppression of it as a coping mechanism, our hidden, dormant, subconscious, implicit emotional memories will keep running our lives, our decisions and our choices, which are not just of our own making but are also interpersonally co-created. And many a times they are created in the formative foundation years of our lives, right from our womb till the first initial few years. And of course, as adults, once we become aware of those, once we become aware of those implicit memories, we can start to edit them just like the movie is edited, or the PPTs that we edit, or the answers, the articles that we edit, which also involves a lot of cutting off, a lot of erasing, a lot of deleting, along with a lot of re-editing, along with a lot of rewriting, a lot of reframing. We can start to process them. We can start to feel them in order to be able to deal with them so that we can finally heal them. So let's try and look in hindsight as to what has been internally stored in the manner in which it has been stored. Is it still a choice that we are consciously making, or is it a choice out of default, which we barely are even aware of? Let's try and do that for ourselves, and I will see you once again the next week. Till then, stay tuned in. And guys, if you do like the contextual content of these videos, please do like, share, and subscribe.